My life as a dyer began in theater. As a costume designer, I was creating a design for A Midsummer Night's Dream, and the director's requests wanted something completely different. So I started researching and bumped into some beautiful fabrics created using shibori techniques. And that was the start. And I never left. Instead, I left theater and became a textile artist. This studio came into being about 4 years after I started working exclusively as a textile artist. Originally, I used the garage and my back patio, and that became not quite enough space, so it moved into the house. I took over the dining room and one bedroom, and pretty soon I still needed more space and something that was completely dedicated to doing the artwork. So that was the beginning of creating a studio space. By that point, I, thank goodness, had a really good idea of what I needed to be able to work and work efficiently. So originally, I was using a camp stove, which ran on propane to heat my dye, and would dry my fabric by laying it over the plants in the yard. I'm not sure that plants enjoyed that, but it was a great drying rack. I was very fortunate in the beginning to have an exhibit at the Japanese Friendship Garden in Balboa Park, San Diego. And to fill that space, I needed to do very large wall pieces, and I absolutely fell in love with that. I was also very fortunate that a textile group had a convention here in San Diego at the same time, and they used the Friendship Garden as a dinner space along with the exhibit, and that was the start. I was also very fortunate to have taken a workshop with Zandra Rhodes in Solana Beach, California, which is about 10 minutes from here. And she urged me to make clothing and not just design costumes and wall pieces. So that was the start of my wearable art. In trying to decide what to do next, I was lucky enough to meet a couple of beautiful women, Jill Heppenheimer and Barbara Lanning, owners of the Santa Fe Weaving Gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And they mentored me into doing the wearable art pieces that I do today. Ultimately, I started showing a line in New York at a trade show, Atelier. And the need for space in order to produce large amounts of fabric and cut all of it became imperative. And that's when the studio came to be. I was fortunate to have a dear friend who is also a scenic designer, Susan Gratch, help me by drawing up the plans that she and I talked about and create the space that I have today. The studio is divided into 3 separate spaces, what I call a dry room, a wet room, and my dye space, which is outside. The dry room is for finished fabric, blocking, pattern making, and then cutting that fabric. The wet room is for tying wet fabric, for mixing dyes, and getting set up to move everything outside to the dye space where the burners are, and we can heat everything and literally make a mess. In my dye work, I challenge myself to express fearlessness and energy and joy, all of the things that go into creating that piece of fabric. I enjoy the dyeing because often you really have no idea quite how it's going to turn out, how that dye is going to enter that fabric. It's always spontaneous. And while I'm dyeing, I suddenly go, wait, I need another color, and come running in to grab yet another dye bottle to take outside and add to that piece I'm working on. The spontaneity allows me to express the joy that I'm feeling at the time, and it's a joy that I hope my clients feel when they wear my clothing.